What's up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Cody Campbell with High Ground Gaming. Today we are unboxing and reviewing the XPG Mage. I'm going to start by walking you through the specs, then I'll open it up, let you take a look at it. After that, we'll go to the review portion where I'll give you my thoughts on the product, and from there, we'll go to High Ground Gaming's final score. Stick around. In case you haven't heard of XPG, it's the gaming line owned by ADATA. They're more well known in the hard drive side of things, but they do make a fair amount of peripherals and some full pre-built computers. The Mage is a full-sized wired keyboard with a detachable USB Type-C cable. It has a gunmetal gray aluminum body and uses Kailh brand red linear mechanical switches. It has 3 customizable profiles. It has a gaming mode, it has RGB, and it comes with XPG Prime software control. With all that out of the way, let's get into the unboxing. There we are. All right, it comes set in this plastic here. It's got some foam on the side to keep it nice and safe. Let's see what else is in the box before we get into that. We've got some stickers, we've got the warranty guide, and we've got quick start guide. Little side box, nothing else in there. We've got the cable. That's pretty much it. Cable seems to be about 6 feet in length, I'd guess. That's okay. It's got USB Type-C to USB Type-A. Okay, looks pretty nice right out of the box. I do like the aluminum body. That looks really nice. Keys are a little shiny, a little slick for me. I prefer a little bit more texture personally, but let's see. USB-C port is on the back right there. And it looks like there is one size foot on either side with 4 rubber grips to keep it solid and rubber grips on the feet as well. That is a pretty comfortable tilt. Ooh, those keycaps are a little rattly on there. Like, that's not me pressing them, that's just me wiggling them around. Ooh, that's shiny. Looks nice. Okay, so I'm not seeing any... Oh, here they are. Media controls are on the F keys there. Let's do a little sound test for the switches. Those Kailh switches are really nice. I tested the white box switches in our last review for the Kinesis TKO keyboard. Loved them on that keyboard. These are the linear reds, and I'm already loving them here. Feels really good. Okay, I'm gonna go plug this in, play some games, test it out for you, and we'll be right back with the review section. Don't go anywhere. On to the review portion. I've had a little time to play around with the XPG Mage, and I've got some stuff to say about it. But before I get into that, please leave a like and subscribe. All right, let's start off by talking about the build quality. The XPG Mage has a really solid build. There's absolutely no flex to it whatsoever, and it just feels like a really solid piece of equipment. It doesn't move it around at all. The grips keep it very secure on the desk, so you don't have to worry about sliding or anything like that. There are only a couple of issues with the build. First of all, the plastic ABS keycaps aren't super premium. They are kind of cheap feeling. They look a little shiny, dust shows on them very easily, and they're probably going to show wear and tear a lot faster than double shot PBT would. They also don't have any of that sort of textured grippiness to them, and they can be a little wiggly and clacky to type on. There also aren't any designated media control keys. There are functions on some of the F keys up here. That's not the end of the world, but it does kind of take a while to activate each of them. It does this very cool thing where when you hold down the function key, the lighting changes so that it only lights up the functional ones. But then when you turn it back, the lighting takes forever to reactivate, and It's just kind of one of those things that makes you not really want to use it all that often, but it's there if you want it. The last thing is that this keyboard is somewhat tall. It does have the legs to give it a little bit of an incline, but even so, I really feel like most people are probably going to want a wrist rest with this keyboard, and it did not come with one. So some people might be happy to be able to pick out and get their own wrist rest, but that's kind of becoming a thing that's sort of expected with full-sized, full-height keyboards, that you get a wrist rest with them, so it's kind of a bummer that this one didn't come with that. But now let's talk about the Kailh brand linear red switches. I really like these a lot. They're completely smooth all the way up and down. They have the exact amount of tension that you want so that you can rest your fingers on them easily without accidentally getting typos, but they're not going to fight you when you're trying to press them down if you're trying to get those quick reactions in game. Linear red switches are the most popular option for gamers. They're the ones that are most frequently seen on gaming keyboards, which this is. But this does not come with any other options. So if tactile or clicky switches are what you're looking for, this probably isn't the keyboard for you. The XPG Mage also had some really terrific gaming performance. I played some Prey with it because I want to test those fast reactions, and nothing really tests fast reactions like aliens popping out at you from hidden corners. During my time gaming with it, I found the XPG Mage to be both comfortable and responsive for the most part. I did get some wrist fatigue after a while, but again, that comes back to it not having a wrist rest. If you add a wrist rest, you probably won't have that issue. But now let's talk about the XPG Prime software. This was probably the most disappointing thing about the keyboard. The software works great. I haven't had any issues with it, which, to be fair, is not nothing. A lot of keyboard software has a tendency to be either buggy or just really not work properly or need constant reboots or anything. The XPG Prime software worked flawlessly. It just doesn't have a lot of features. There are only 3 profiles that you can set in this, with only 7 different lighting effects. Even the lighting effects that it does have don't have that much versatility in the way that you can use them. This, for example, is the wave motion. It really can only look like this. You can change the direction of the wave, you can change the speed, and you can change the brightness, but you can't change the color at all. If I wanted to leave out green and yellow and just make it red, blue, purple, like, you know, kind of my color palette for my setup, there's not really a way to do that. You can just set it in a solid color or like a reactive mode or something like that. You can't really do that with modes like the wave. So that was a little disappointing. There was a button to click off rainbow modes so that you could set different colors, like that was built into the software, but it wouldn't let me uncheck that mark, so there was no way for me to actually do it. I'm not sure if that's just because the XPG Mage doesn't have this capability, and so the Prime software can do that with other keyboards, but it was a little strange. It does have a game mode, but the game mode isn't all that impressive. Basically, you can just disable the Windows key, disable the Alt and Tab keys, or disable the Alt and F4 keys, or any combination therein. There is a hotkey mapped to the F6 key, which allows you to switch in and out of game mode easily just by hitting function F6, and that worked great. It just wasn't anything that exciting. It didn't change lighting effects. It didn't do anything more interesting than just disabling a few keys. If you do decide to get the XPG Mage and you also want to get some other XPG gear like a mouse or a headset or anything like that, they do have the option to use canvas synchronization. This makes it so whatever lighting effects that you decide to apply to one item are also applied to all XPG products that are connected to the software. That can be really awesome when you have all your gear sort of matching with the same lighting effects. I want to reiterate though that even though the software doesn't do all that much, everything it does perfectly. So for people that don't like dealing with buggy software or any sort of wrestling with constant updates and stuff like that, this might be a solid choice for you. That's about it though. It's a pretty straightforward keyboard. So without further ado, let's get down to the verdict. The XPG Mage MSRP's at $59.99. That is pretty much a perfect middle ground. It's more expensive than the cheaper budget options, but it's significantly cheaper than most premium keyboards, and it does have some, but not all, premium options. That makes me feel like it is priced pretty perfectly for what it is. It's clear that XPG decided to prioritize the basic build quality and functionality over features. And honestly, I think that's a good thing. I've reviewed a lot of keyboards that had a million features, but none of them worked all that well. This one doesn't have very many features, but pretty much all of them are functionally perfect. The only thing that I really do not like about it is the keycaps, but those are pretty easy to replace, and it's not all that expensive to do it either. But that is a cost that you'll have to keep in mind if you want to do that you're going to be paying for the keyboard and replacement keycaps. Doing that will also mean that you're going to lose the secondary functions printed on them, for example, the media controls and the game mode keys on the F keys. You can always leave the F keys, but then it won't match, and that's a whole other thing. So keeping all that in mind, we gave it a pretty average score of 3.5 out of 5. I actually quite like this keyboard. I feel like if they had replaced the keycaps with something a little nicer, if it had come with a wrist rest, even with the software not having every feature in the world, I would have given this a really, really high score. But as it is, I don't think it's a bad deal. I think for 60 bucks, this is a pretty solid keyboard that anybody would be happy to have at that price point. Also, a lot of the things like the keycaps and the wrist rests are things that you could add down the line. If you want to buy a $60 keyboard now and upgrade it, you can do that. I think that's going to do it for us today, though. Why don't you go ahead and drop down into the comments. If you have this keyboard, let us know what you thought of it. And if you're considering a mid-range keyboard, is the XPG Mage one of the ones you're looking at? And what features do you really need in a mid-range keyboard to make it worth your while? While you're at it, please hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. We've got a lot more content coming real soon, and it would be a shame for you to miss any of it. Okay, everybody. Thanks for watching. Happy gaming.